Welcome to this mini course, Selenium WebDriver with Python crash course. My name is Admas Kanfu. I'm a senior software engineer in test, and here are my credentials. I have a BS and MS degree in mechanical engineering from San Jose State University, right here in the heart of Silicon Valley. And I transitioned to QA automation in 2013, and I started teaching in 2015. So there you have it. That is my credentials. If you're new to my channel, please make sure to hit that subscribe button and like this video. Also, you want to hit the notification icon because I will start going live and to do live coding session as well as live tutorials. So you want to know when I go live and get some reminders. All right. I'm pretty sure you're going to learn a whole lot from this channel. So in this course, I'm going to get you started writing Selenium WebDriver scripts. Okay. Selenium WebDriver is a huge topic and QA automation is a huge field. So you're not going to be able to learn everything in a 2 hours course, but you definitely are going to get started and have ideas on how it works and what to do to continue to practice on your own. Okay. So we're going to write few scripts here in this course, and I'm going to give you ideas on what kind of scripts you can write to continue to practice and what kind of sites to practice on. So the prerequisite for this course is basic Python. Okay. So this is Python and Selenium, right? Selenium with Python. So you do need to know Python. If you take my full course, I have an amazing full course that starts from scratch and teaches you Python, like basically starting from what's variable all the way to classes and objects, everything you need to know about Python. Then in the same bundle, in the same course, you're going to learn Selenium from scratch. Okay, so that's an option. At the end of this course, you can decide if you want to take the full course or not. But you do need to know Python in order to work with Selenium, right? Selenium supports different languages and Python is one of them. And in this mini course, we're going to focus on Python. But what I'm going to teach you is Selenium, not Python, because Python is kind of big, right? All right. And knowing what QA is, obviously, if you're here, you know what a QA is, you know what testing is, you know what automation is. So that's kind of a prerequisite. I do have a course on QA. If you don't know anything about QA, if you're just exploring, you can take that free course. Just to learn about what QA is and what the job is like, what the field is about. Okay, feel free to check out supersqa.com. That's Super Software Quality Assurance, supersqa.com, and check out the free course. All right. So at the end of this mini course, at the end of this crash course, if you like the teaching style, if you like the video auto quality, then by far the full course is the best Selenium course money can buy. I can say that about my course. I know it sounds a little bit egoistic, but I really think it's a great course for somebody who's just starting out, and it covers pretty much everything and really good exercises, framework, design, and such. So let's quickly go over what we're going to cover in this mini course. Okay, in this mini course, obviously there is an introduction section, and we're going to see a Selenium preview. First, I'm going to show you just a script. I'm going to run a Selenium script, see it work. Then we're going to talk about a practice site, how you can create your own practice site if you want, or how you can use, there's a site that I created that anybody can access. And we're going to talk about installing Python in tools. We're not going to get into details, but I'm going to show you how to get started. If you don't have it, most of you guys have it. And at the bottom of the description, basically in the description, you're going to see a breakdown of each of the chapters. So feel free to jump around between sections, okay? Or there is a timestamp of everything. All these topics you see here, there's a timestamp for all of those, okay? Then there is an HTML refresher for somebody who's completely new. Then there is running scripts and paths, which is kind of important because to be able to run a script, you have to understand paths or how to all the drivers. Basically, you need to download drivers. We're going to talk about that. Then we're going to get into finding elements and actions, basically Selenium stuff. Okay, we're going to get into that. That's basically the core of Selenium. We're going to quickly just review the Selenium weights, WebDriver weights. Then we're going to write 4 different scripts, 4 different tests. 3 of them are tests, and 1 of them is web scraping, because I want to show you different examples of how you can use Selenium and how you can practice Selenium. Then I'm going to talk about project ideas that you can do on your own. Okay, so this is all in this course. That's why it's pretty compact, and the whole point is to just get you started and have an idea on how to continue to learn on your own if you don't want to purchase any course. Right, and the full course, like I said, it teaches you Python from scratch. It teaches Selenium WebDriver in detail from scratch, and there is framework design. So when we write scripts in this particular course here in the crash course, we're going to write scripts, but those scripts are standalone scripts. Okay, they're just individual files and they're not really reusable. But then when you're writing automation for a project or for a site, you need a framework. But framework makes code reusable. It makes it easy. You write a code once and you can use it in several different tests. All right, and you're going to generate a report. The framework can work with backend automation and frontend automation, because Selenium WebDriver is frontend, right? But when you testing some kind of application, you also need to test the backend. Usually there is a front-end engineer and backend engineer. Same thing. QAs also focus on front-end and backend, and some QAs do both. Like me at my job, I am responsible to test the backend as well as the front-end, and the framework needs to support both, right? Because they complement each other. Especially backend will complement front end, and I'll explain what I mean. So the framework will do that, and the full course and bonus, there is a MySQL or SQL crash course, and I'm planning to add Jenkins and Docker crash course in the course, so look out for that. It's a really good course, and I would love for you to check it out. And I'm going to add coupons in the description. All the links you need, they're going to be in the description. All the scripts we're going to write in this particular crash course, you can download them. I'm going to put a link to the downloads in the description as well. And also you can just go to supersqa.com and check out what deals are going on. All right, basically, this is basically the same slide. I just added a few screenshots of the reports that we will generate. Really cool reports. Allure report is one of them, and PyTest HTML report is the other one. We're going to use PyTest to build our framework. Okay, we're going to build our framework on top of PyTest, and there is a plugin that generates a report, and the report will have a screenshot. When a test fails, it would add a screenshot, and I'll show you how to do all of that in the full course. And for somebody who's interested in Allure is a very popular report generation tool, and we also generate a report that looks like this. This is an actual report from the framework we designed. We ran 8 tests, and one of them I made one of them fail on purpose, so the report will look a little bit cooler. All right, so what is Selenium, right? I'm sure most of you guys know what Selenium is, but it is a web test automation tool. So it is primarily used to automate web apps, okay, on a browser. So it supports different languages. You can write it in Python, in Java, Ruby, as well as C#, okay? In my personal opinion, Python and Java are pretty popular for Selenium, but plenty of people use Ruby as well as C#. And in this course, we're going to focus on Python. So what Selenium does is basically anything a human can do in a browser, okay? Selenium can do it. When anything, well, almost anything, but pretty much everything a user can do, Selenium can do it. So we're going to see an end-to-end automation for checkout as guest user, okay? End-to-end automation. So we're going to manually execute it, and then I'm going to show you running a script. All right, so we are going to run an end-to-end checkout automation, okay? So I'm going to do it manually first, and I'm going to show you Selenium doing it. So there's a site. We're going to talk about it in a little bit, but for now, it's just demostore.supersqa.com, okay? demostore.supersqa.com. So it's just a subdomain for my main site, and it's just an e-commerce site. You can create this. I'm going to talk about it coming up, how you can create this on your local machine. It's just a WordPress site with a few plugins. Well, technically just one plugin, WooCommerce. Very easy to do, and you can create it on your own machine. And you have MySQL and PHP and WordPress running, and it's just super simple, okay? So anyways, an end-to-end checkout as a guest user would be a user would come and let's say add to cart, just randomly add one cart. We can see it's added. I'm going to go there, and since it's a test site, it's not a real site. It's almost a real site, not quite. And the only reason I say that is we cannot process credit cards, right? That's an issue. So I created a coupon. You guys can use coupon. So this website is accessible to anybody. You guys can check it out right now. So if you do SSQA, Super Software Quality Assurance 100, SSQA 100, which is for 100% off, it's a free coupon. So it's going to make everything free. So select on free shipping and then click on checkout. All right, and here you're going to fill out the name. I'm going to say test, last name user. Just fill out the required fields. I'm going to do 123 Main Street. I know that's not 123. And let's say San Francisco, California, 95008, even though that's a Campbell zip code. And I can do 510-111-1111. All right, test at supersqa.com is the email address. I can click on create account if you want. The automation is not actually doing that. All right, then I can click on place order and order received. So what the Selenium script does is everything I just did right now, then it will come here and make sure this page is loaded, make sure there is an order ID, and it actually takes the order ID and checks the database to make sure this order is actually placed. It's actually recorded in the database. Okay, you can't see that because that's a backend. That's what I mean when I say backend actually supplements the front end, because the front end, we just finished with all the front end. We're good to go, but it's a really good idea to make sure the order went through. Maybe something broke, the front end did not send the message correctly to the backend, and the order never got created in the database. Okay, so it's a good idea to go check in the database. Cool. So now let me show you Selenium doing exactly what I did, and it's going to go really fast. So let's go to Pycharm, and this is the framework we designed. So I have the course material, the Python section, Selenium section, and SQL test is our framework. It has a bunch of things. I don't want to get into detail, but if we go to tests and go to end-to-end and checkout, this has a test ID of 33. So I can just run that. I can say pytest-m for mark tcid 33. I can do HTML report too. HTML is going to be demo.html and hit enter. It's probably going to open the browser in my other window, in my other monitor. There you go. All right, you can see it going. There you go. I'm not doing anything. It added to cart. It applied the coupon. I click checkout. I filled in the form. It's going to click on place order, and voila, it actually went to, you can't see it, but it actually went to the database and checked it out. And this one actually ran on my local instance of the site. Remember I told you can create the site? I could created one locally, and that's what I ran the test against. Okay, so demo.html, if I was to open the report we just created, open in browser, let me open it in Chrome. I opened it on my other monitor. There you go. There's a report, just one test, demo.html. Okay, so that's what Selenium looks like. So we just saw Selenium execute an end-to-end test, starting from going to the home page, adding to cart, applying coupon, clicking buttons, filling on the form, and confirming everything went through. So that's the power of Selenium. Something it would take you minutes, Selenium can just do it in seconds. All right, let's keep going. So about the practice site you just saw me do a manual test on demostore.supersql.com, and then you saw the automation running on localhost / some port. Okay, but it looked like exactly the same, right? It's because it was created in exactly the same way using exactly the same data. Okay, so it's just a WordPress site running locally and using a WooCommerce plugin. WooCommerce is one of the most popular e-commerce plugins for WordPress, and WordPress is one of the most popular tools to build a website. Okay, so if you already know WordPress, how to work with WordPress, go ahead and just, like I said, install WordPress. You need a tool to run the web server and the database on your machine. There are several options. The option I show on the course is one of them is currently I'm using MAMP, M-A-M-P, and there is AMPS. And you can also just do separate. You can just install the server by itself and the database by itself, but then you need to know how to configure those. It's tough. So MAMP, M-A-M-P is what I recommend. But you can take this course. Again, it's free. This is the image I'm using for the course right now. This might change, so you can just search. Just go to the site and search. Right now, I will put a full link to basically this link. I'll put it in the description. Okay. So it's about an hour long, but once you know what you're doing, for me, if I was to create the site, it would take me about 15 minutes right now. But the course is about an hour because I'm explaining every step. It's adding sample data. You saw there's a bunch of items for sale, and there is a coupon. So I go through everything, how to create the coupon, how to create the sample data, how to make it look like the way it looks, API keys, because sometimes you want to access the APIs. That's one of the advantages having your own site is so you can practice backend automation. You can always practice Selenium with public sites, right? You can just write a test on Amazon.com or Python.org or any website, but you cannot really practice backend testing. You cannot access the backend, you cannot access the database, and you cannot access the API, right? So creating a simple e-commerce website on your own local machine is one of the best options to actually practice, and you can do anything you want to do with it. Okay, so I wanted to give you a pointer on how you can practice on your own machine. In this video, we're just going to talk about our environments and the tools that we need. Okay, so the first tool we need is Python. Obviously, we need Python. We need Selenium, which is super easy to install. Once you have Python, we can install Selenium, and I will just show you that in a few minutes. And we need some kind of IDE. So IDE is Integrated Development Environment. We don't necessarily need IDE. You can always use some kind of text editor, some simple text editor, but since you are becoming a programmer, why not use an IDE? And there is a free option for Python, a great one, a really good one, and it's completely free and easy to use. Okay, so we are going to talk about all about those in this video. I'm not going to show you how to work with everything here because it wouldn't make sense to take up so much of our precious time doing the setup, but I'm going to guide you on how you can set it up. For most of you guys, you probably already have all of this. Okay, number one thing, you can go to my YouTube channel and look at how to install Python for your individual environment, whether you're on a Mac or on a Windows. Okay, so it's basically YouTube/C super SQA. Okay, so oops, I mistyped my own site name. Super SQA. There you go. So that is my channel. Okay, here there is about virtual environment. So I really advise you to look into what virtual environments are. So as a beginner, they're not required, but they're really awesome. And eventually, when you start working on different projects, virtual environments makes your life a lot easier. You can have multiple versions of libraries installed. For example, Selenium 4 is released as an alpha version right now, not a stable version, but as an alpha version. The Selenium 3 is a stable version. With virtual environments, you can have both. You can run Selenium 3 and Selenium 4. In fact, in my full course, I use Selenium 4 because I have virtual environments, and I switch between Selenium 3 and Selenium 4 whenever I need to show the difference, even though the difference is not really that much, at least as a beginner level. Okay, so there is, let me go to all videos actually. There is a video about Python virtual environments. It's a really cool one to just understand. You don't have to do it, just watch it and know what it is. And then you have one how to install Python 2 and 3, both of them running on a Mac, and how to do both of them running on a Windows. Okay, so watch those if you don't already have it, and look in the description for this video. I'll put the links to those YouTube videos that I want you to check out. All right, so let's go open terminal to see if you have it or not. If you're on a Windows, just open CMD, and if you're on a Mac, open terminal. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is you can do which, if you're on a Mac, which Python. Okay, Python, and if you get any kind of result like this, which means you have it. But guess what? If you're on a Mac, Python 2 by default it comes with it, because Mac itself, the OS, uses a lot of Python stuff, so you always have Python. So if we do Python-uppercase V, Python-uppercase V, it will tell you the version. You can try Python 3 uppercase V, it will also tell you the version. Python 3 you will not have by default. You would have to install it. So just if you don't get any results like this, just go to python.org, install the latest version of Python 3. It might be Python 10 or Python 3.10 or 3.9 or something. Just install it. Nothing special about it. Just install it, but watch the YouTube video on how to do it. If you're on a Windows, the which command, okay? You don't do which, you do where. Where Python. Here is not going to know what where is. But on a Mac, you do which. To find a program, you do which. Like it just shows you where that program is installed. On a Windows machine, you can do where. I've noticed when you do where, if you only get one result, I don't even know what that is, but it's not really Python. If you get two results, then you have it. Okay. And for this course, you can use Python 2 or Python 3, but preferably Python 3. Why not use the latest one? Okay. Again, watch the YouTube video. Install it on your machine. It's very simple. Nothing fancy about it. You just go to python.org and download and install. All right. With regards to the IDE, so the IDE we use is called Pycharm. Okay, if it's the first time you're hearing it, it's Pycharm. Okay, this is it. This logo here, this icon, that is Pycharm. So go to the website. It is by JetBrains. They make a couple of different IDEs. Okay, so just click on download, and there is two options. Let me see. The first one that gives you, so when you click on download, you get professional and community. Make sure you download the community one. Okay, that's the free one. Professional is not free. There is a free trial. They will let you install it and run it, but later on you're going to keep getting a bunch of notifications. Okay, but community is free, and that's all I've been using for years. It's perfectly enough, and we don't use anything, we don't do anything crazy with it. Okay, it's just editing our code, but it knows what code is, it knows what Python is. So when we're writing Python code, it makes our lives easier. That's the whole point of an IDE. All right, so it supports Windows and it supports Mac OS. Okay, so just download the community edition, and this is what it's going to look like. This is what it's going to look like, except you won't have anything here. These are all different projects I have for like just different things. Okay, and a project in Pycharm is just a folder, nothing into it. So you won't have any of this, but this will look similar. I mean, obviously the newer version, it's actually already 2021, there's a newer version out I need to install, but it would be very similar. At least you would get something that says open and create a new project. Okay, so for this course, let's already create a project. So I'm going to click on create a project. So like I said, a project is just a folder. So I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to click on this folder icon. Okay, and in my home directory, I'm going to say create folder, and I'm going to call it Selenium Py crash course. Okay, that's just a folder, and you could create the folder first before you get to here, whether you're on a Mac or on Windows, the same thing. Then you can just choose the folder here, click open, and existing interpreter. This is with a virtual environment stuff I was talking about. If you understood what virtual environments are, and if you want to use it, you can actually select this, which will create the virtual environment, or you can just say use the existing interpreter, which will use your system Python, your default Python. Okay, so it's using Python 3.8 for me. I also have 3.9 installed, but this is fine. So I'm just going to click on create, and this is what the project looks like. In your case, this might not be open when you start, and that's it. You have a folder, an empty folder, and we're going to start to write our code in this folder here. So we just created a project in Pycharm. All right, so to summarize, install Python 3, whether you're on a Windows or on a Mac. Just install Python 3, install Pycharm. Those two are the only things we need. Selenium, to install Selenium. So with Python, pip comes by default. Okay, pip. In fact, for Python 3, we want to use pip 3, and in Python, when you want to install libraries, dependencies, you just use pip. It will go find whatever you need and you will install it. So for example, to install Selenium, pip 3, install Selenium. Okay, hit enter, voila, that's it. Now I already have Selenium installed. Okay, actually this one says already satisfied because I already installed it before, and it did install version 3. So you can do pip freeze to see the list. Okay, pip 3 freeze. Actually, my Python 2 have issues, so I get a bunch of gibberish like that. But if I do pip 3 freeze, I get a list of everything that's installed. Or I can do pip 3 list. You get a list of everything that's installed. As you can see, Selenium is installed, Selenium 3.1 something. Okay, all right, so this is all we need for the course. Now we can actually start writing some code. In this video, we're just going to have a quick HTML refresher. So if you know basic HTML, this is going to be extremely basic for you, so you can just skip this video. Okay, we are just going to go over what HTML looks like and what it is, just very quickly, just to go over for those who are completely new, because when you write Selenium test, you have to know a little bit of HTML, right? So what are we doing with Selenium? With Selenium on the page, we are finding elements and doing something with those elements, right? Find element and do something with it or to it. So those elements are HTML elements. So it helps to understand what HTML looks like and to know how it actually functions. So we're going to do a quick summary of what HTML looks like and what it does. So if you are completely new to HTML, I think it's a good idea for you to do a very basic tutorial. Okay, just go over some HTML tutorial, because this is not going to be enough, but it is going to be enough to do what we do in this course. All right. You don't need to be a guru of HTML. You don't need to know a whole lot about HTML, because HTML its own can be huge. It can have a whole lot of topics, but just the basics you should know. All right. So we're going to create a simple HTML file. So I'm going to create a folder. Actually, I'm going to say HTML refresher. Okay, and I'm going to create a file. So you do right click new. Here there is an option that says HTML file. Try it, see what happens when you do that. But I'm just going to start from just an empty file. So I'm going to say HTML refresher.html. all right, so HTML files, they always end with HTML or HTM, but lately I only see HTML, so that might be old school. So do your file with .html. So the file always starts with HTML tag. Okay, and as soon as I close it, Pycharm knows it's an HTML, so it will close it for me. I didn't type this in. As soon as I typed this, it did this. So every time you have a tag, this is called a tag. Okay, this is an HTML tag, this is an opening tag, and whenever you have the same exact tag with a slash, it's a closing tag. So I just opened HTML, closed HTML. And usually it has two major sections. There is a head tag. Okay, see how it finished it for me. And then there is a body tag. Okay, so in the head, usually it's information that's not displayed on the page. You don't see what you see in the head, you don't see it in the page. You have things like title, for example. So I can say my HTML title. So this is the title of the tab. If I was to open it, I can just copy this the path. So you can right click, copy absolute path, go to browser, and just type it in the address, and it will open nothing. It's empty, but you can see the title. Okay, the title showed up here. Then other than that, in the header is just a lot of external files like references to a CSS style. Anything external you need, it will go in the header. It's just a lot of stuff that goes in the header, but that's not displayed on the page. So in the body is most of the things we actually see on the page. Okay, so my keyboard is acting up. All right, so here, for example, we have an h1 tag, which is a header. Okay, h1, and it's the biggest header. Headers start from h1 to h6. So I can say largest header. Okay, and h6 is smallest header. Okay, so now if I go refresh this page, now I have these two, largest header and smallest header. h1 is the largest, h6 is smallest. So those are elements on this page. That's one element, this is another element. If you do right click and do inspect, okay, now you can see what the HTML looks like. So this is exactly what we wrote, right? We have the header and the page highlights. So when you hover over body, the entire body, you expand it, h1, you see that? That's h1, this is h6. Play around like this, okay? So that is an element. h1 is an element, h6 is an element. So if we were writing Selenium test and we want to make sure that we want to validate the header, we have to find that element first. Then there are different ways of finding it. Selenium supports different types of locators to locate elements, and we're going to talk about those. In this case, for example, I can use CSS, and I can say find h1 that's right underneath body. I can just tell Selenium that, and you will find it, and you will just, I can just say get the text of that element. Or if it's an input field, I can say go type a text into that element. Or I can have commands like that, okay? Let's just do a few examples. For example, another one, usually you see a lot of div. Div is like just organizing. It's like a little box on the page. Okay, you can't see it unless you specify saying, oh, I want to see it. Like you add a border to it or something. Let's say I do a span and I say input name. Okay, that's a span element. Now I'm going to do an input element, and the type is going to be text. And I can say placeholder is going to be your name or something, your name. Okay, let's just refresh the page, see what happens. There you go. Now we have another element. We have an input name and we have an input field. So we can tell Selenium, find this field. Okay, here we can see it in here. There is an input. We can tell Selenium, find this field and get the text or input text to it, or find this label, the span, and verify the spelling is correct. We can do that. We can give it an ID, like this input field. I can give it an ID, which is an attribute. I can say user name. Okay, now if I refresh this field now is going to have an attribute of ID, one of the best locators. Okay, Selenium supports ID, so I can tell Selenium get the element with that ID. Okay, so this is what HTML looks like. The whole page is built like this, a bunch of tags. Okay, collection of elements. We have one element, two elements. This entire div is an element. Inside of that element there is another element, there is another element. It can be just like thousands of elements deep. You really never know. Okay, so that's the basics. So let's go look at a real site that's running. For example, if we go to supersqa.com, the same thing, you do right click, inspect. Okay, now we can see all the elements, all the HTML. This is a whole ton of stuff here. Okay, and in Chrome you see this little icon with a box with a pointer. If you're using Safari, there's like a cross, yeah, basically a cross, and every browser has this type of functionality. Okay, so if you click on that, now you can select the element. You can see it highlighting every time I move. It highlights the element. If I move a little bit to the corner, it highlights a bigger row. So if I click that, now I get a focus here. So this is telling me it's a div, it has a class, and I can expand it. And in there's a UL. UL is unordered list. Okay, so they used a list for the header. If I expand the UL, there's a bunch of LIs. Okay, all of those are elements. If you look at the header, so I'm going to zoom out so you can see everything. So every time I move my pointer on each element, I can see it highlighting there. Or I can select this thing again, and let's say I want to click on my account. So I'm going to click on my account. Now my account, this is an element. It has an ID, it's under LI, and it's an A tag and an anchor tag. And I can tell Selenium, oh, find LI that has this ID, and inside of it find the A, and then click it. Or I can tell Selenium, find LI with ID of this and click it, and Selenium will click it. Okay, so generally that's the idea. That's what we're doing with Selenium. We're finding elements on the page and we're doing something to it. Either we get the text and verify the text matches, or we send the text to it, or we click it, or a few other things. Basically anything a human can do, Selenium can do, almost anything. Okay, take that with a grain of salt. Alright, so that is a quick refresher of HTML. It's not a whole lot of information that I just gave you, but if you follow that along, it's good enough to be able to write the scripts that we write in this video. Because the locators, we are going to just right click, copy, and it's just going to give you selector or Xpath. We're going to use those two selectors. We don't have to create your own. Okay, let's keep going. In this video, we are going to write our first Selenium script. Okay, we're going to see what we need to do to get a browser to open. So we're going to set up, it's almost like setting up the environment. All right, so let's go to Pycharm and let's create a new file right underneath our project root. I'm just going to keep creating files here. So I'm going to say first Selenium script. All right, so the first thing we always do is import WebDriver. From Selenium import WebDriver. That's the first thing we do. Sometimes we need to import a few other things. For now, that's all we need. Now we need to create an instance of the browser. So we just create a variable and we're going to call it driver. This is very common. Like all the code you see people wrote, they use the word driver for the variable to hold basically the browser or the web driver. Okay, so we're going to do WebDriver.chrome. And that really is it. So this will create the driver object. Then we'll do driver.get, and we're going to give it the URL http let me see, demo store.supersqa.com. Okay, so typically this should work, but now oh, I have my hand. Now it's not going to work, so let me show you the error. So I'm going to try to run it. All right, and it's going to get you a really clean error message. Okay, so just look at the last part of the error message. It says Selenium common exception WebDriver exception message, Chrome driver executable needs to be in path. See this documentation, so you can actually go into that documentation and it would open this up for you. Okay, so we'll come right back to this and to talk about it. Let's try Firefox. So I'm going to duplicate it, Command D to duplicate, comment that out, and I'm going to do Firefox. Okay, and let's run it again. Okay, so it's trying to do something. Surprisingly, I'm not getting the exception. Okay, it did open Firefox. So let me see if I open my terminal. I was hoping to show you the error because it's not going to open for you. Which Gecko Driver? Okay, so I do have it in the past. So the whole point is to run the Selenium WebDrivers, we need to download drivers. Okay, for Chrome, we need to download Chrome driver. For Firefox, we need to download a Gecko driver. And one of the options is to add those drivers into the system path. So when the script runs, it will be able to find them. Okay. So right now I did which Gecko driver. On Windows, that will be where Gecko driver. And it just showed me it's in this location. So I'm going to remove that. Actually, I'm just going to rename it. Okay. And so now it's not in the path. So Selenium should fail, just like we saw it fail for Chrome driver. Okay, message Gecko driver executable needs to be in path. All right, so you need to go download Gecko driver. All right, so that's what I wanted to show you, that you need to have the Gecko driver or Chrome in your system path. Now back to the browser. So even if you don't click on the link, you can just Google download Chrome driver, and usually it's the first hit. Okay, and then you're going to have to download the version. So let's see, I'm going to click on Chrome. I'm going to say about Chrome to see what version I'm at. I'm at version 89. So I'm going to download the one that supports version 89. So just click that and select your machine. I'm on a Mac, so I'm going to do Mac. For Windows users, do Windows. So I'm going to select on Mac. It's going to download the zip. I'm just going to let it go to downloads, save. All right, I'll click this and it will extract it. Okay, and now I have this file that says Chrome driver. So you do a very similar thing for Gecko driver. Okay, so I'm going to get the path. So if you know what path is, system path, you can add it to your system path. So one thing to look up is, if you want to research this, research system path, how to add to system path. Okay, it's the same thing for the same concept for Windows and for Mac. Okay, so that's important. I'm not going to cover it here, but it's a good idea to know how to add to system paths. Therefore, now let's just get a full path to the Chrome driver. So I'm going to right click, hold down Option, copy the path name. So on Windows, you just go to the address bar and copy the whole location. So now we're going to work with Chrome, right? So I'm going to uncomment Chrome. So since we don't have it in the path, we don't have Chrome driver in the path, here you're going to specify executable path is going to be the path I just downloaded. Okay, so that is the key. Driver, webdriver.chrome, and you pass an executable path and give it a path to where you downloaded. If you add this into your system path, like I just told you, look into that, then you don't need to specify because it would automatically be able to find it. Okay, so let's run this. Okay, so the first time you do that, you're going to get this error: Chrome driver cannot be opened because the Chrome driver cannot be verified. This is on the latest versions of Mac. Okay, so copy that error, cancel it, don't move it to trash, cancel it, go back to the browser and literally search for that error. Okay, you just put the whole error in the first result. At least right now, the first result, there is this command here. Okay, it's going to quarantine something and you're going to give it the full path. Okay, so I'm going to add it here so you have it as a note. So in fact, the solution is this, and we're going to give it this full path here. Okay, so you have it in your notes. I'm also actually want to put the error also there, so you know. There you go. So let's execute this. Now I'm going to take this, I'm going to open my console, or my not console, terminal, and just execute that, and voila. Now let's run it. That was some security thing. Okay, all right, it worked. So it opened the browser and it went to demostore.supersqa.com. Okay, So now we have a driver object. We can do a lot of WebDriver stuff to it. Find elements. Here I can just show you a quick example of getting the title. I can say print driver dot title. Okay, so driver is our WebDriver object, and there's a bunch of methods we can do, which we're going to look at in the next video. So let me run it one more time, and I want to see it printing the title of the website. So if you look at it, it just did print it. All right, so we just ran our first Selenium script. Hopefully you are able to follow along. Important steps is download Chrome driver if you want to run Chrome, or Gecko driver if you want to run Firefox, and the exception would tell you exactly what the issue is. Once you download it, on Mac user you might get this error, so execute this command. Okay, and when you download, make sure you download a version that matches your Chrome. And remember, Chrome usually by default auto updates, so it might work today and it might not work tomorrow, because your Chrome driver is not going to update, but Chrome is going to update itself. Okay, keep that in mind. That's a common issue that comes up time to time. All right, let's keep going. Finding elements. Okay, in this video we are going to talk about how to find elements and how to interact with those elements. You saw this slide before. Okay, so what do we do with WebDriver? We always find something on the page and do something to it or with it on the page. Just like what we do manually. We don't notice it, but what we do is visually with our eyes, we find something and on the page and we do something to it, right? We make sure it exists. We make sure it's visible. We make sure the spelling is right. We make sure when you click it, something happened. We make sure when you type into it, something happened. We make sure when you drag it, something happened, right? That is what testing is. So that's what Selenium WebDriver actually does. All right, and it gives us several options on how to find elements on the page. Okay, so there are two methods: find element and find elements. So the difference is one is singular, the second one is plural. Other than that, they work in a similar way. So when you say find element and you give it the strategy on how to find it and you give it the locator, is going to give you one element, the first element that it finds on the page that matches that locator and that strategy. If you say find elements with plural, it's going to find all the elements that match what you specify, and it will give you a list. The first one is going to give you a web element. It's just going to be one item, just a web element. Okay, that's the object type. The second one is actually going to give you a list. All right, so we're going to see examples of those. Then the different strategies to locate are the ones you see here in purple. Okay, there are about 8 different types of locators. So there is you can find by ID, you can find by CSS Selector, you can find by Xpath, by class name, by link text, partial link text, by name, and by tag name. Okay, those are what Selenium provided to us. That's what Selenium supports. Okay, and we are going to see examples of those in action, at least some of them. We're not going to go over everything, but some of them. So finding by ID is the easiest one and the best one, because if the page is designed properly, there should only be one element that has that one ID. It's the whole point of an ID, right? It's unique. There cannot be multiple elements having the same ID. So if you find an ID, it's a good way to use it, because you just find that one. You know for sure what element you're looking for. All right. CSS Selector is the most flexible one, in my opinion. It's CSS and Xpath, they're both flexible, and that I use CSS the most frequent. Okay, if there's no ID, my next choice is CSS Selector. Then the third choice will be Xpath. Okay, Xpath is also great and it's really fast for Selenium, but it is more prone to breaking, more prone than CSS to breaking, and I'll show you why that is. Then there's a class name. Class name, the issue is there can be multiple items with the same class. Usually that's the case, so it's useful sometimes, but I don't use it that often. And the link text and the rest of them, they just self-explanatory, and you can explore those, and whenever they come up, when we do our practice, we'll use a couple of those. All right, but ID, CSS Selector, and Xpath we are going to use very often. All right, so one thing I want to show you is, if you're looking at a little bit of an older code, you might find a method that says find element by ID, find element by CSS Selector, find element by CSS. I have a typo there, by Xpath. Find element by Xpath, and all the other ones, and it just says find element by something, find element by. Now in Selenium 4, those methods are gone. Okay, they're going to be deprecated. So if you use those in Selenium 4, you're going to get a warning. I just want to bring that up. So what you want to use is this one. Just find element, and in the parentheses you give it what you want to use. All right. So let's jump to code and actually start working on that. All right. So here is our project. Let's see. What did I do? I can't find my pointer. So let's create a new file right under the root. I'm going to say finding elements example. All right. So the first thing we do, we import driver from Selenium, import WebDriver. We need one more thing we need to import. We need to import that by class. Okay, from selenium.webdriver.comment.by import by. This is a class. All right. Then we're going to create our driver object. Driver is equal to WebDriver.chrome, and we need to give it the executable paths, or you can add it to your paths. We talked about that, right? So if we go to our first Selenium script, we have our paths here. So I'm going to copy that so I don't have to go find it. So I'm going to type it right in here. All right. Then we're just going to say driver.get http demo store.supersqa.com. All right. Let's test this out. I'm going to right click and go. All right. There you go. Browser opened. And voila, we have it here. Okay, so I'm going to close this. Also, at the end of your script, you should put driver.quit. Okay, this will quit the process, and driver.close will close the browser. So what the difference is, quit will quit. Like if you have multiple browsers open, sometimes you run a test and you can have a new tab, a new window open. So a quit will close everything, but close will close just the one you're actively working on. Okay, so I'm going to comment that out, but I'll leave it for your notes. In fact, I'll comment this out too, so we can look at it. Will close so quick we won't get a chance to look at it, so I'm just going to close it. Okay, so now let's go to the site and actually look at some locators. So the first example I want to show you is how to locate by ID. So if I right click, inspect, and I want to look at this cart here. Okay, so if I scroll up here, I'm going to click on this pointer, select the cart. So the UL here, the entire box, has an ID of site header cart. Okay, I'm going to copy that. So I'm going to say, let's say cart is driver dot find element we talked about, right? By dot. In this case, what do I want to use? See, the auto suggestion shows me everything. Now I'm going to use ID, and I'm just going to paste the ID that I copied. As easy as that. Okay, now let's print what cart looks like what it is. I can say print cart. I can also say print type of cart, right? We want to see what type of object cart is. So I'm going to run it, and we should get a printout of those two. All right, the browser open, it loaded, it should be done by now. Scroll up, there you go. So when I say print cart, it printed this. It's basically details about the web element. And when I say type of cart, it printed this, which is a web element. That's what we're looking for. We get a web element. Now, web element has its own methods. I'll show you right in a few minutes. It has a bunch of its own methods, right? For example, if we want to get the text of the cart, I can say cart text is going to be cart dot text. Okay, so we use that very often. You have a web element, you do dot text, and you'll get the text. So if I say print cart text, then let's run it again. There's a faster way of showing you this, but for now let's just run it one at a time. All right, so it finished, and it printed 0, 0, 0, 0 items. So if you look at the cart, it printed all the text in the cart. Okay, so this has been an example of by ID. Very simple. When you use ID, it's the simplest thing. You find the element. Now this is a web element. There's a bunch of things you can do to it. We'll talk soon. And one of them is getting the text of it. So a lot of automation, actually, a lot of tests is you check the text of the element that's displayed. So that text is common, and you can assert what the text is, if the text is the right text. Okay. So another example by ID is, let's close this. So let's go back. Let's close this too. I just have, since I have this open, in fact, let me uncomment it now so I don't have too many browsers open. Like right now I already have so many browsers open. So another example by ID is, let's look at the search field here. So let's say I'm trying to test search, okay? So I want to come in here and find this search field element. Now I come here and try to find what the best locator is. As soon as I get an ID, I don't have to look no more, because I know I can use ID. ID is one of the best options, okay? So another example of by ID here, by ID. So I can say search field is going to be driver.find element by ID, and I'm just going to give it the ID. All right, now once I find the element, what do I want to do? I want to send keys. I want to type into it, right? So I can say search field dot send keys, and let's say I want to type in hoodie. Okay, so now, in fact, this time I don't want to close the browser so you can see it. Now let's run it, and it should do exact same thing. Open a browser, go to the site, find the element, and type into it. You see that, right? You see my pointer didn't move. I didn't do it. It typed into the field. Okay. Another thing, you can now, after you type that field, you can send the enter key. So in fact, let's import keys. So you need to import from selenium.webdriver.comment.keys import keys. Now I want to send the enter key, because in this case there is no button to click. There is no submit or search button, right? Our only option is to send the enter key. All right, so I can say search field dot send keys dot enter. Okay, hopefully you're able to follow. I'm moving a little fast because of time constraint, and we're going to see all this when we actually run actual tests and examples. There you go. It actually searched, right? It typed it into it and it hit enter. Now we know it worked because we got a search result for hoodie. All right, so that was an example of searching by ID. Now let's look at an example of searching by CSS. Okay, so let's say I want to go find this link, my account, and I want to click on my account. Okay, so again, pointer, find my account, search it. All right, now this got the focus. We got the A tag and we got the L tag, whichever one we want. We can see it does not have an ID, right? It does have a class, but there is multiple items with the same class. So using class name is not our best option, but in CSS you can use the class. Okay, so I'm not going to talk about how to build CSS. You can look it up and just spend a little bit of time trying to learn how to build your own CSS and how to build your own Xpath. In the full course, there is about an hour worth of content just discussing how to come up with a stable CSS and a stable Xpath. But for our purpose, for this short course, all you have to do is right click it, copy, and it says selector, copy selector, click on the selector. Okay, so now, I'm going to do, this is going to be by dot CSS selector. Okay, so what we're looking for is my account link, right? My account is going to be driver.find element by CSS name, no, not class name, CSS selector, and I'm going to give it the CSS selector. This is what I got when I did right click, copy, and copy selector. That's what I did. So what do I want to do now? I want to click on that element. So I can say my account dot click. All right, so now I can just run this. We should see the browser open. Okay, it clicked it, it went there. All right, perfect. So it takes time to actually wait for a browser to open and see it, right? Let's say you're automating and you wrote a lot of code that goes page after page after page. It runs for like, a whole 3 minutes. And now we want to test something on that page. Every single time you don't have to wait for that to happen. So what I want to do is I want to put a breakpoint here. Let me import PDB. Okay, PDB is a Python debugger. If you don't know PDB, look it up. It's a very useful tool. So I can say pdb dot set trace. If you do set trace, it always just breaks at that point. Okay, So I'm going to run this. In fact, let me not click this. I want to stay in the home page. Okay, so I'm going to do run, and it's going to end up in a breakpoint, and I want to show you a few things once we get to the breakpoint. Okay. All right, so we actually searched for hoodie. I was hoping we'll be in the home page, so let's not hit the enter key either. And we can see it's a breakpoint here. I'm sure. Let's just run it one more time. All right. And another thing I would like for you to do is just check out Xpath. So while this is going, it's actually done, but let me show you. Here, we use CSS, but you can do right click, copy, and you can do Xpath or full Xpath. So let's say copy Xpath. Okay. So we can come here and we can do for this one, we can do exact same thing, but we can say Xpath, and we can put in this Xpath, which is relative Xpath. You can see it starts with double slash, so it's relative. So I found something with an ID, and from the ID it went all the way. But if we do right click, copy, and full Xpath, okay, this is just for an example. I'm going to duplicate this and I'm going to paste this. Now this one is a full Xpath, it's not relative. So they all find, these three things will find the same exact element. One is CSS, one is relative Xpath, one is absolute Xpath or full Xpath. Okay, remember that. All right, so now what I want to show you here is in the breakpoint, if you need to be familiar with the method dir. Okay, it's a Python thing. Dir will give, and you give it an object. So let's say I do dir and I do driver. Okay, I give it the driver object. It's going to give me all the properties and methods of driver. So you get a hint of what you can do with the driver. So we have driver. Okay, we have find elements. We've seen that. This one find elements by something. I told you that's going to be deprecated in the Selenium 4. Let's say there's just a lot of things. Title, we saw an example. If you have multiple windows, you can switch to windows, switch to frame. Let's see, current window handle. Just so it's a good idea for you to go through this and get familiar. These are all the methods that Selenium offers. Okay, so all the things we looked at. Send keys, it should be somewhere in here. Click, it should be somewhere in here. Handling alerts. Okay, so dir and driver. Even when you have an object, for example, let me get the search field. Okay, let me run this in PDB right here. Okay, now if I do type of search field, it's going to be a web element. Okay, if I do dir of search field, and now I get all the options I can do. Okay, I can take a screenshot of the element. I can send keys like we saw before. I can get tag name. I can get the text. I can check if it's selected or not. Let's say if it's a radio or if it's a checkbox. You can do is selected and it will get a true or false. You can find element. Okay, once you find an element, you can find a child element from that element. All right, so remember that. That's very useful. Like let's say you find a table and you save it in a variable, then you can do that variable dot find element and find all the rows. Okay, so you can do the same thing to the element. Whatever you do to the driver, you can do the same to the element. Keep that in mind. It's very useful, and you don't see it very often, but it have become very useful for me. Okay, so those are what I wanted to show you. There's a lot to talk about, but I've gotten you started on how to look into it. Especially this dir command with PDB is very awesome. It's very useful. Go ahead and try find elements with plural. Okay, for example, if we go to the home page, the home page, right? If we look at these products, they're an li and they all have a class product. Okay, so I can just say my products. It's going to be driver find elements with plural. Okay, by class name and product. Okay, if I do my product, it's a list. You can see, right? It's a list of elements. If I do len of my products, it's 16 of them because there's 16 that showed up on the page. Okay, so I did plural. Since I did plural, it got me all of them. I can write exact same command. I can write exact same command with singular, right? If I do, oops, let's say driver.find element by class name, and I give it product, that gave me only one item, right? It just give me the first one it found. All right, keep that in mind. It's useful. If you want to get multiple elements, you use plural s, singular for one element. All right, so that is basically how to find elements, and how to, when you find the element, how to do things to it. You can send keys to it, click it, get the title, and there's a bunch of other things that we saw what you can do. You can take the element, you do dir on the element, and you can see what you can do to that. All right, so that's the basics, and now we can go actually apply this and write some practice scripts. In this video, I just want to quickly talk about weights, because weights are one of the common issues when working with Selenium, right? A lot of times you're going to get an error that says element not found, but when you go look at the page, the element is there. So what happened is, it's basically a race condition. Selenium is checking for the element before the element exists. Sometimes the element is loaded with Ajax, sometimes there's a delay and such. So there are Selenium weights. There's two kinds of weights. There is an implicit weight and explicit weight. So for implicit weight, this is what you do. Like whenever you create the driver object, just add this line, and that will give it an implicit weight. So what this line is saying is telling Selenium, wait 10 seconds before you say I can't find the element. And so it's not just sitting there waiting. It's actually checking the element every half a second up to 10 seconds. Okay, so if it finds it on the third second, then it's going to continue. All right, so this is implicit weight. And this is common, it's easy to use, so we're going to use it for the examples. And the other one is explicit weight, and explicit weight is a little bit more involved, and this is how you do it. So this expected conditions is a class that comes with Selenium, and there's a lot of options. Okay, so you want to go and check out what those options are. Now we're not going to use them here because it would just take time to explain, but in our framework we actually use explicit weights. It's more recommended to use explicit weight, okay? But implicit weight is the easiest one, and for the type of scripts we write, we are going to use those. So I want to bring this up here so you know how to deal with it when you get that element not found issue, and clearly the element is there, but you get an exception saying element not found. So two kinds of weights, implicit weight and explicit weight. Those are what you want to check out. All right. In this video, we are going to write a test case that automates python.org and verify a link actually works. Okay, so I want to use python.org for this example, so I don't want the whole course to use the same exact page for everything. I want to expose you to like different pages. Okay, all right, so let's go to let me manually show you what test we're going to run. All right, so we are going to go to python.org. Our script is going to go to python.org. Click on PyPy and verify the right page loads. Okay, all right, and I'm going to move a little fast. Just you already know I'm trying to cram as much information as I can in this 2 hours course. All right, it's for your own benefit. So let's create a Python file and let's call it verify underscore py link python.org.py. All right, so from Selenium import WebDriver, from selenium.webdriver.comment.by import by. So driver is going to be webdriver.cron, and executable paths, I have it in here. All right, that's what I just downloaded it in an earlier video, and I kept it there. I didn't add it to my path, so you can do whatever works for you. All right, so let's make sure. Let's go to the site, so I can say driver.get. Okay, so let's go to python.org, copy this, and put it here. Now let's make sure we get to the right page, so I can say current title is driver.title, and expected title is welcome to python.org. Okay, that's the title, that's this page. You can see it here, right? That's the page. That's we know we're in the right page if we get that title. So I can say assert, or I can say an if current title not is equal to expected title, then raise an exception went to python.org but got wrong title. I can say current title, just give it whatever, like some meaningful message. Okay, format current title, right? Just a meaningful message. Okay, so let's keep going. We need to verify this, but this is very, very simple. Okay, now we want to get the locator for this link, so let's right click, inspect. All right, so I'm just going to do CSS. I'm going to PyPy. I'm going to take the link and I just going to copy the CSS selector. I'm going to do it the easy way. Okay, so I can say PyPy header link locator is going to be that. All right, then I can say PyPy header link element is going to be driver dot find element by CSS selector PyPy header locator. All right, and then what do we need to do? We need to click it, PyPy header link element dot click. Okay, at least this far. Let's test it out. So I'm going to right click and go, and it should open a browser. There you go, browser opened. I clicked it, voila. So once we clicked it, what do we do to verify the right page loaded? I think I can get the URL and check the URL. There's a bunch of things, right? You can do this element, look for the title. You can check the same thing we did first, get the title. A lot of things you can do. Okay, just for the sake of showing you different types of examples, I'm going to get the current URL and verify that. Okay, so earlier we verified the title. Now let's do, I can say current URL is driver dot current URL. So if you want to know what are our options I showed you, right, you can do dir driver and you will get a list of all the methods, and this is the current URL, the one of the options. Okay, then the expected URL, our expected URL is this, right? So this is the expected URL. Then I can do an if statement like earlier, or I can do assert current URL is equal to expected URL. And the if not, the error is clicked on PyPy, but the URL opened was, oops, I can do current URL. That's it. And at the end, if you want, you can just print pass, and you can close the driver.quit. Okay, this time I don't want to close it. I'm going to comment it out. So let's run this test. It should be opening a browser. There you go. There you go. All right, let's see if there's any. Nope, no exceptions. It passed. Okay, so we just finished our first test, and we're going to write scripts like this a few more times. I'm moving fast for obvious reasons. All right, great. Let's keep going and do another one. In this video, we are going to automate another test case. So we're going to write another script for python.org. We are going to verify the search actually works. All right, so back to Pycharm, and let's create a new file. Going to be a Python file, verify search works. I'm just going to say python.org. Okay, so what we're going to do, let's do it manually first. We have this still open, so we're going to come here, search into here. I'm just going to search some word like testing or something. All right, and then make sure this table shows up. Basically, at least one element. I expect at least one result, so I'll just make sure what the first one shows up. All right, so let's open the other one and copy a bunch of code from there. So the first thing we did here is we opened a browser, went to the site, and verify we landed on the same site. So let's get this. We need all this. and paste it here. So this is when a framework comes in play, right? When you have a framework, you don't have to copy paste every single thing over and over again. You just make a function call or something like that. That's the whole point of a framework. Makes things a lot cleaner, right? So now what we need to do is we need to find the search field. So let's actually go back to the home just to make sure the elements didn't change. So we're going to do inspect, and let's see what our options are. All right, so it looks like we have an ID, right? So it makes our lives easier. We don't have to use Xpath or anything. So I can say search field ID is that, and the reason I'm saving it in a variable is to show you that's a good practice. Normally you would have all the locators in a different file, and you would import them, okay? Or you have it in configuration file somewhere. So if you need to change it, you only change it in one place. Now if you have a lot of tests for search, and if I have hard coded the ID in this script, then what happens when the ID changes? Now I have to find all the tests and change them, right? So that wouldn't make sense. So you would create some common place for all the locators, and then you will just import those. And that's what we do in the framework that we actually build in the full course, okay? So I'm going to say search field element is going to be driver dot find element by ID, search field ID. All right, so what do we want to do? We want to type into it, right? We want to send keys. So I can say search field element dot send keys, and let's just say testing. Okay, just like I did when I did manually. Then what do we want to do? We want to click on this go. So let's find that. Let's see if we have an ID. We do have an ID of submit, so we can use that. Okay, so I can say go button. I can say go button ID is that. Then I can say go button element is going to be driver dot find element by ID, and I'm going to give it go button ID, and I want to click it, go button elements dot click. All right, so let's run it. Let's see. So far we haven't made any mistakes. All right, so it's going to start to run. Browser open, typed, clicked go. Perfect. So it went to this page. Now I can do inspect here, and I like to put this at the bottom right there. So we have each row. Let's see, this whole thing is a UL, and under the UL each search result is an LI. So let's get the first LI. So I'm going to right click, and I'm going to copy Xpath. Okay, so I'm going to say first result Xpath is going to be that. So I can say first result element is going to be driver dot find element by Xpath and first result Xpath. Okay, so what do I want to do now? I find that element. The element might always exist, right? The li might always exist. So what I need to do is verify it actually is displayed. All right, so there is a method that says is displayed. In fact, let's put a breakpoint here. Import pdb. I'm going to do an inline import pdb.setTrace, and let's run it so we can actually see that we can interact with the element. Okay, all right. Now we have a breakpoint. So if I do dir of first element, okay, so one of the options should be is displayed. So let's look at it. This looks like it's alphabetical, and is displayed. All right, that's what we want. We want is displayed, is enabled, is selected. So for example, if we do first result element is displayed, we get a true. So that's what we want to verify, right? So we go back to our code, and we can say assert first element that is displayed. Okay, I can say after searching the element, the result is not displayed, right? We can do that. Or if I say if that, then I can say print pass, else I want to raise this exception, right? Just a little bit, else raise exception and that's going to be my exception. You can do either way. You can do the assert, or you can do displayed. All right, so but that's basically it for this test to verify that the search actually worked. So let me do continue on this one, see and continue, and let's get rid of this, and let's do just run the script, and hopefully the script will pass. Unless we have a typo somewhere, it should pass. There you go. Okay, perfect. So our second test is done. One thing we should have added, sometimes you could run into this problem, is always add a timeout, implicit wait. So driver dot implicitly wait, I can just say 10 seconds. So what implicitly wait does is, I know I've talked about it, it's going to wait for 10 seconds before it fails saying element is not found, and it's going to check every half a second up to 10 seconds. Okay, so as soon as it finds the element, it will move forward. Hopefully we'll come up with an example when that actually saves us. In this case, our test was passing without the implicit wait, but I do want to show you an example. The last thing, don't forget, is driver.quit, because you want to save on some resources. All right, welcome to another video. This is your instructor Admas Kung Fu from supersqa.com. In this video, we're going to look at another example. Okay, we're going to write a test. This one, we are going to write a test where it verifies an invalid coupon actually fails and gives the right error message. Okay, so as always, let's execute it manually first. Let's go to, so basically that's our code will do, right? Go to demostore.supersqa.com, and we need to have an item in the cart to be able to apply coupon. Okay, so click on add to cart, and then we go to cart. Either we can click this or this, but in our test we just go straight to the URL /cart. All right, then once we get here, we do a few things. We have to make sure there is an item in the cart, because Selenium moves fast, too fast, and sometimes it gets to this page before the item is actually in the cart. Then we're just going to put some random string into the coupon code, click apply, and make sure we get this message saying coupon, whatever we added, does not exist. Okay, so that is a test case. Now let's go to Pycharm and start writing the code for this. Okay, so I'm going to create a new Python file, verify invalid coupon fails. All right, okay, so let me minimize this. All right, so the first thing we need to do, as always, import. In fact, yeah, let's do it. From Selenium, import WebDriver from Selenium.WebDriver.common.by import by. Okay, we always do this. Now this one I want to do it a little bit different, a little bit more structured, a little bit more proper. Okay, so I'm going to use functions, and I'm going to do a bunch of function calls. So at the bottom I'm going to do if name is main. So basically this is a main. This is a block that's going to get executed when you run this file specifically, because in Python, I don't know if you know this, I'm just rambling, but in Python, when you import this file, if you were to import this file, it will execute everything in there, right? But if you have something under this block, when you're importing it, it doesn't execute it. But when you execute the file itself, it executes this part. Okay, so you can have functions in here that you can import into a different location, a different file. All right, so we need a function first to go to open a browser. So I can just say open browser. Okay, so let's define a function, def open browser. All right, it doesn't take any parameters, so I can say driver is equal to WebDriver.chrome, and we're just going to give it the path like we always do, and we're going to return driver. Okay, so we got to store this. I'm going to use the same variable name, driver open browser. Okay, so we need another function that says go to home page. Go to home page. So this is kind of like a page object. So normally what you would do is you create a class for each page, a page object pattern. Basically in the full course we are using page object pattern. Okay, we're going to design our framework using page object pattern. And in a page object pattern, every page will have a class, and that class will have methods of things you can do on that specific page. So when you write multiple tests, all you do is import that class and you have everything you need to do on that page. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. I went a little fast. All right, so we're going to define this. We're going to do def, go to homepage. This needs to take the driver object. Okay, we can give it any name, but I'm going to keep calling it driver because it's easy to follow. So I can say driver.get http demo store.supersqa.com. All right, that's all this needs to do. So it needs to pass this into it. All right, once we get to the home page, we're going to have to add item to the cart, right? So add first item to cart. Okay, and this needs to take driver as well. And we're going to define this def add first item to cart driver. All right, now, so we need to find the add to item button, right? So let me X this out. Let me go to the home page. All right, so I'm going to do inspect. And I'm going to go to add to cart. So add to cart, let's see if there is an ID. There's a class, right? Add to cart button. I can just take that. Since I want the first one, I can do that. In fact, on the console, if I do $$ and code, for a class, you do dot. Okay, for ID, you do the hash. So I can say class dot and hit enter. Basically, this is a way to test out CSS. Okay, if you want to test out CSS in your browser, this is one of the ways. If you do $X, that's a Xpath. If you want to test out Xpath, okay, this is a very nice trick to know. But you have to know how to build your own CSS to be able to even have the need to test it. Okay, that's why I'm not talking about it. It's a longer topic. That's why I avoided it in this course. I just right click. In fact, let me be consistent. But I just wanted to show you this. But normally, what I've been doing in this course to save time is I just find this. This is it. I just right click, copy, Xpath or selector. I'm just going to do copy selector. I'm just going to do that. I'm going to keep doing that. But hopefully you understand in real life that's I would never do that. I would never use the whatever Chrome gave me unless I need something quick and dirty that's not going to be for long term, because this the one Chrome gave me, like this one, look how long it is. It's huge, right? And it's not maintainable. It can break very easily. Okay, but I could have used what I just did. In fact, that's too long, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to use this this CSS because I know it works, right? If I hover over here, I can see that's the right one. All right, anyways, so let me delete this. And what do we need to do? We need to do driver.find element by CSS or class name. In fact, let's do class name. And so when you're doing the class name, you don't have to give it the dot, because that's already telling it it's a class. All right, so what do we want to do? We want to click it. I can say, let me just put it in a variable. I'm going to do it differently on everyone. So first add button is that. Then I can do first add button dot click. Okay. All right, so we can test this out so far. Let's see if it's doing what we expect it to do. All right, it's running. All right. It added to cart. We can see one item to cart, and we can see it clicked here. So the next thing we need go to cart page. Okay, and we need driver again. Oops, every function need driver if it's going to interact with the browser. So I'm going to take the same exact thing like this, but I'm going to say go to cart. Like I said, we could have clicked here, we could have clicked there. I chose to just go here directly. All right, so we need to make a function call here. All right, then what? Then we can say apply coupon, right? Let's say apply coupon, and we need to give the driver, and we need to give it a coupon code. So the coupon code is going to be, let's just say fake one. Okay, so let's define this function def apply coupon, and it's going to be driver and coupon code. Okay, now this is not going to work. We're going to see the issue. Instead of just giving you the solution without showing you the issue, I figured I'll let it fail and then I will give you the solution. Okay, so now let's go to the cart. In fact, let me open the other browser. All right, so add item to cart. Okay, go to cart. All right, now we need to find this coupon code field and apply coupon to it. So I'll do this. It has a name, it has an ID. Okay, so we're going to use the ID. So I'm going to say coupon field is going to be driver.find element by ID, and that's the ID. All right, then we're going to do coupon field dot send keys, because we want to send the coupon code, right? And we're going to say coupon code, whatever is passed in here. Then we need to click on apply coupon. So let me see if there is an ID. There is no ID. It has a class. It's a button, so it's not unique at all. So in this one, let's just copy CSS. Normally, I would build the CSS myself, make it short and easy. To save time, we're just going to copy. All right, then I can say apply button is going to be driver.find element by Css Selector, and this is the Css Selector. It's a long one, it's going to be cut off the screen. Then I'm going to say apply button and click. Okay, all right, so let's run it and let's see what happens. It is running and it should go into cart and most likely fail. Oh, we never called go to cart. We did call go to cart and we did apply coupon. So it did not go to cart. Let's see what happened here. Okay, go to cart page missing one required positional argument. Driver. Okay. What happened? My mouse just got stuck. Oh, here we're missing driver. I'm sure you guys have caught that mistake. I oversaw it. Okay, so let's see. It went there. It added to cart. It went to cart. Okay, this is the issue I was talking about, right? So it added to cart and went to cart right away. But when we got to cart, it says there's nothing here. This is just the way the plugin works, or the site works. Okay, nothing we can do about it. It's not our fault, because we can see here there is item in the cart, but it says nothing down here. So if I was to refresh the page, all I do is reload it. And voila, it's there. Okay, so that's just the way it works. Whenever you're testing a site, there are different behaviors you don't expect, like something that's just not common sense. It just happens and you have to deal with it. Okay, so in this case, we're going to implement a few things. So one thing I've done before, actually in the full course, when we had an end-to-end test case, what we did is we wait for this element to have this text, then we go to the page and we use explicit weight for that. That one is a little bit more complicated, so I'm going to do a little bit different. I'm just going to use pure Python logic, and I'm going to show you a few other Selenium functions. Okay, so we're going to do def. I'm going to say wait, or I can say verify cart has item. Okay, and it's going to take driver. All right, so let's look at what this function looks like. So the way I want to verify it is I'll go to cart and I want to refresh the page. And basically, you saw me manually refreshing the page, right? So in Selenium, I want to refresh the page and look for this element, make sure this element exists. Okay, so if I was to look at what that row is, the product row is a row with a class of cart item. Okay, so I'm going to keep refreshing up to X number of times until this is visible. Okay, so I'm going to say, how many times do I want to try? Let's try. I want to refresh 5 times. Okay, so I can say for I in range 5, right? Basically, I want to try to get that element, right? I want to say driver find element by class name, and I want to give it the class name. And if found it, then it's available, right? So I can just do try that and return from the function. Just finish and just get out of the function. Except if there is an exception, right? I'm going to catch a specific exception in a minute. I can just say print item not in cart, retrying after 2 seconds. Okay, seconds. So now we need to sleep for 2 seconds and refresh the page. So I can do time sleep 2 seconds, and I can say driver dot refresh. Refresh. Okay, so driver dot refresh, that's a Selenium function we have not talked about. You can reload the page. So if you look at it, 5 times. I'm going to try to get the element. If there is an exception, then I'm going to sleep for 2 seconds and refresh. And I'm going to do that 5 times, okay? So let's import time. That's one thing we need. Import time. Also, I don't want to catch just all exceptions. I want to catch element not found exception, specifically that exception. So let's import that exception from selenium.webdriver.exceptions. From selenium.common.exceptions, import no such element exception. Okay, we take that and we're going to catch that specifically here. All right, you can try this and it would raise that exception. In fact, I have it open right here. It says Selenium common exception, no such exception. So when you see this, you know where to import it from. You don't even have to remember how to import it. You look at this, it's a class and exception, so you can just import that way. All right, so now verify cart has item in cart has item. So before we apply coupon, let's actually call that method. All right, and let's run it. Okay, it's running. This should work. Add to cart. Okay, it's going to reload probably. You see that? It's reloading. Voila. And apply to cart, we got that. And if you look at our console, item not cart returning after 2 seconds. So we just tried once. And literally, we didn't even need to do 5 times, but it doesn't hurt to have it. Okay. So we saw that working and we applied the coupon. The last thing to do is we need to just get the message. Okay. So I'm going to do right click, inspect, and let's see. So I'm going to take that and go straight to the message. And there is an li. Let me just copy the Xpath for this, the selector. In fact, let's do Xpath since we've been doing selector. Okay. Now I'm going to define a function that says get displayed error message. So def get displayed error message, or it can be just message. Okay. Driver. All right. So we can literally just say driver.find element by Xpath. That's what we said, right? And this is the Xpath and dot text, and we can just return that. We can do a Pythonic way, just very compact code. We can do this literally, right? But we are going to run into the same type of issue because this is going to move faster than the message actually shows up. Let me run it and I'll talk about it. Because here what we're saying is we're going to click on apply coupon and right away we try to get the message, but the message is we're going to do it way too fast. The message is not going to exist. All right, so we can visually see everything worked, but if we look at the test, it failed because message no such element, unable to locate element, because it clicks it looks for the element and we don't have any kind of weight. Okay, so let's add implicit weight and see if that helps. So here when we create the driver object, we can do driver dot implicitly wait 10 seconds. Let's see if that's helpful. In my notes I actually used explicit wait, but implicit wait should work also, but let's see what happens. All right, success. It's success. Okay, no issue. So now we just need, we say get displayed error message. All right, so we can say error message is get displayed error message driver, and we need to know what expected message is. Expected message is going to be, we can go to here and just copy this, and this is expected message. Now we just say assert error message is equal to expected message and unexpected error message, and we can just give it the error unexpected. All right, so you can give it a better message here. A better, when the exception is raised, we want to give it a better message. Unexpected. All right, so this is the last thing, and here we can do print pass if we want, and we can do driver dot quit. Okay, but let's just comment that out. Let's not quit the browser so we can see it. All right, so it's running. I think the test is pretty much completed at this point. Let's see, it's going to reload one time because you can't find the element. It doesn't look like it's doing that. Looks like it is doing that, but it's waiting. Oh, we added an implicit weight here, so that's going to cause a problem. It makes our test slower. All right, because here we said find element and then reload the page, but we also said wait 5 minutes before 10 seconds before you quit, so it makes it slower. Think about why that happened. So let me just make this 5 seconds anyways. All right, but it did work. Item not in cart, refresh one time, then pass. It actually got the message and it asserted it. All right, so that is almost like an end-to-end test case, and it's a long one, and we talked about different types of concepts on this one. In this video, we are going to look at another example, but in this one, we're not going to write a test. We're going to do more of a web scraping. Okay, so if you don't know what web scraping is, it's basically when you go to a website and download data from the site, when you're scraping the site. Okay, in this particular example, we are going to go to the homepage like here, and we are going to download all the prices for the items on the homepage. Okay, we're just going to do it on the first page, and as an exercise you can improve the script so it will actually go to the next page and to the next page and to the next page and do it, even though there's only 2 pages here, but your code should be able to handle it. That is an exercise. Okay, so for example, a competition. Let's say I have a store that sells hoodies and belts and things like that, and you also have a store and you want to see my prices. Maybe you want to adjust your prices based on my prices, right? So every morning or at midnight every night or something, you want to run a script that will go and check all my prices. So you will come to my site, go to every item and download the price. So that's called scraping. Okay, it's very common. I've personally used it for different things to scrape websites and get some data. So Selenium is one of the tools to be able to do that. There are other tools, like there is a library called Beautiful Soup. There is a library called Scrapy. Those are they're actually faster because they don't open a browser. Those two, they don't actually open a browser, so they run faster. But Selenium opens a browser and renders everything, so it's slower, but it's an option because sometimes it's even a better option because you get blocked and stuff like that. So this example, that's what we're going to do. We're just going to come to the page and download all the prices. All right, maybe not all the prices, but I'll show you why. Okay, so let us go to we have our last example here open. So let's create a new file, and I'm going to say Python. I'm going to say scrape prices demo store. Okay, all right, from Selenium import WebDriver. From selenium.comment from webdriver.comment.by import by. All right, so we're not going to do functions or anything like that. So driver is going to be webdriver.chrome executable paths. Let me just copy it from here to be faster. I'm going to copy this. Normally you don't even have to provide that. Okay, and I'm going to say URL is http demostore.supersqa.com or whatever. If you have if you already created a site locally, the same exact site locally like I showed you, then use your site, your domain. Driver.get URL. Okay, and let's add implicit weight. Driver.implicitly weight, let's say 5 seconds. Okay, so now what do we want to do? We want to come and get every element, and if we look at every product, okay, if we collapse this, every product is an li and it has a class of product. Okay, so we can do all products. Okay, those are the elements, but I can just say all products is equal to driver.find element with an S, right? Plural, because we want to get all of them by class name, and product is a class name. All right, we can do CSS, we can do li.product or just a class name. In this case, we need all of them, so we use plural. So this is going to give us a list. So if we do print number of products is going to be, I can actually do the newest way of formatting, len all products. Okay, let's run this and see if so far we got it going. Should be 16 products on the page. All right, let's see. Voila, number of products 16. Okay, good. So now this element, let me close this. What we just got will give us this entire box, right? In the box, we need to dig down into the price. So we need to get to this span, price, and another span, and exactly to the price from the product, right? We could have done, originally we could have just gave it Xpath, not Xpath, CSS to specifically to the price, but I just wanted to show you how you can apply the same method to an object, to a web object, web element. Okay, so now this is a list of web elements. So we're going to loop through it. Okay, so for product, in all products, all right, then we're going to actually get the price. It says amount. Let's see. Basically, we want to get this span. It's a span with a class of amount. Okay, so I'm going to say product dot find element by Css Selector span dot amount. Okay, take your time and analyze this, because product is not a driver. So far we've been doing find element on the driver object, but product is actually a web element, and we're doing find element on the web element. Okay, and you can do a dir and see what you can do with this. Okay, so now I can say price element is that, and price is going to be price element dot text. Okay, and another thing we want to do is we want to get the name of the product, because when I'm downloading I'm going to go put it in a file and load it into my site or compare it to my own prices. So the price by itself doesn't mean anything to me. I need to know the name plus the price. Okay, so the name has an h2 with a class of that. Okay, so to build your own CSS, you can just do $$ to test it out. This h2 dot means class and the class name. Okay, and there's 16 of them, right? That has the product name. So I'm going to copy that CSS. So now I can say product, or I can just say name element is going to be product dot find element by CSS, not class name, CSS Selector, and oops, let's see, I messed up when I copied it, and that is it. We need to get rid of this. Then I can say name is going to be name element dot text. Okay, so let's print price, and let's print name just for now, but I'm going to show you an issue. So I'm going to run the script. Hopefully you were able to follow me. Okay, I'm going to summarize at the end. All right, so here, when we come here, you can count this, or you can just put a display here and saying how many there are. So this is not everything, because some of them, let's see, yeah, this is not everything. It went few and it failed because some of them don't have prices. If we look at some of the products, right, all of those have prices. Even the sale ones have prices. But some of them have varieties, right? It's a select option. There is a range of price, so we won't be able to find that. Okay, so if you're doing this as a business, it's important to you. So you have to add a logic that says, oh, if this is a range, then get the prices, or maybe even actually click on select options and actually select the options and get the price. You can do that. In our case, we don't really need to do that because it's not that important. So this is just a demo. So what we want to do is we want to identify the ones, the products that has prices. So what I did is, wait, this one you can barely see. Let me open the other browser. I think this is better. So what I did is, see how we used for the product, for the li, we used the product class, but some of them are product simple. What is it? Product simple, product style simple. Okay, if we were to look at the ones, this type of product here with the li, it does not have the product simple. It says product type variable. Okay, so we want the product type simple is the one we want. So product type simple, let me copy that back to our code. So when we say get all products by class name, let's actually get the simple ones. That's all we need to do. Now we're going to actually get everything. So now we're just going to say all products and price is a list. And here let's append to the list all product and price dot append. And the way I chose is every product to be a dictionary. Okay, so I can say name is name, price is price, right? So we're going to get a list of dictionaries. So I can say print length of all product, all price, and also print all product and price. Okay, that should be it. Now let's run this and we should get, oops, okay, that would, let's kill that. Okay, it's fine. I run it in a debug mode, which is the same thing. It's just going to run for us. And it finished. Okay, we got a list with a list containing a dictionary. You got the name and the price, the name and the price, and the name and the price. And the price is also a string, so you can convert that if you like. And we got 14 of them. So out of the 16 products, 14 of them are simple products. Okay, so this is an example of scraping, and we used different logic, and we use mainly what I want to show you is you can actually do find element on an element. This is an element, and we did a find element. Okay, the only problem when we do that is you cannot use well, you could use a Css selector, but it's better to, you can't just copy the Css selector from Chrome. It's better to do it this way. Okay. All right, that was a scraping example. All right, so let's talk about ideas. So far, you saw me automate few test cases and some web scraping, right? We wrote about 4 different scripts, and you can continue to do the same thing. Now you have an idea of what Selenium can do and how to use it, and you can come up with your own ideas to practice even further. You can take the same site and just keep creating more test cases. We can create a whole different site. You might already have a site, so you can just continue to practice. But here are just ideas to get you going. Okay. All right. So I have 2 different groups. We have practice test case ideas, and I also have practice web scraping ideas. And let's just briefly go over them. So for example, for the test cases, you can say verify new user can register. Just verify the registration, right? Go to my account page. I don't want to read every single thing here, but you get the point, right? You go to the my account page. You register, make sure the user is registered. Verify the user can log in. An existing user can log in. So you write a script to create a user, then you can use that user on a different script. You can probably hard code it, or you can use the API to create a user. Okay. In production, I wouldn't say production, in my real experience, what we will do for testing an existing user is we create a user via API, because API just takes a couple of seconds and it will create the user. Then I'll take that user and I go to the front end and I try to log in. That's a good thing, especially since you're using your own site. You should be able to do that. If you're using demostore.spreadsql.com, you cannot do that because you don't have access to the API. But if you're using if you create your own local site, that's a good test case. Okay. The homepage has 16 items. Make sure all 16 items are displayed. You can just get products and do a count. Verify checkout works is another test case. Basically, this is going to be an end-to-end test case. You just go to the homepage, add item to the cart, use a coupon. I actually gave you, if you're using Demo Store, I have a coupon that's 100% free, so you can use that. I gave it to you. SSQA 100 is what it is. If you create your own site, then create a coupon that makes the whole cart free, so you can test out a checkout flow all the way to the end. All right. Verify total price is the sum of all items in the cart page. So basically, add a couple of items to the cart, and then in your code calculate what the total should be. Then with Selenium, get the total that's displayed and verify. That's actually a very important test case, right? If you have 3 items in the cart, you want to make sure the total adds up. There is no funky stuff that's messing up the total. If you have taxes and stuff, make sure you calculate for that as well. Okay. Verify removing item from cart works. You basically add item to cart, go to cart, and click on the X icon and make sure the cart is empty. There's another one when you have multiple items. You add multiple items to the cart and you remove one of the items and make sure the rest of the items remain. This kind of bug I actually seen in real life. Okay, I've seen this happen when you add multiple items. Let's say you add 3 items to the cart and you remove one of the items, and next thing you know, all the items are removed. All right, that's a major bug. That's not something you want. So that's a pretty cool test case, and that's a bug that can actually happen. All right, the other one I have, number 8, is verify sorting works. So on the home page, you can sort products. You know, select different types of sorting and verify the sorting changes. You need to write a bunch of logic in your Python, but that's a really good practice. Remember, if you're new to Python, this is a great way to practice Python. Okay, this is not about Selenium. Selenium is, in my opinion, Selenium is the easy part, right? Selenium just does a few things. It has a limited set of functions you can do. You can go get element and do something to the element. That's all you're doing over and over again. Get element, do something to the element, over and over again. The difference is going to be your Python code. Every time you're going to add a lot of logic. Once you get the element, there's a lot of things you can do. So it's a really great way to practice Python, not just Selenium WebDriver. Okay, keep that in mind. All right, another test case, changing quantity product works. Yeah, you go to cart, go to a product page. You can click on one of the products. The product page opens, and you can just change the quantity and make sure it works. There is a lost password link in my account page, and click on that. Make sure it opens the right page, and you can go further and actually test out emails. Right, if you want to go deep, you can actually set up a SMTP server, which is an email server, and verify emails actually get sent out. Okay, that's really, really cool. And this type of test cases, if you actually take it seriously and you work on it, and you can actually put it on your resume, right? You can showcase you're capable of doing things like this one here. If you set up a SMTP server and actually test the email, then you're doing backend stuff, right? So you're good to go. It's really good for your resume if you are a person that's actually looking for a job. Okay, so those are example tests. Again, I'm pretty sure you guys can come up with really great test cases, so you can just do your own, but this is just an idea. All right, then web scraping ideas. This type of idea, some of this I actually used in real life, in my personal life. Okay, so a lot of times when you need to gather information from the website, Selenium is a good option. So if you don't know what web scraping is basically when you go to a site that's available, open to the public, and you actually get the data. Literally, they're not giving you the data to download, but you're actually parsing the HTML and downloading the data for your use. Okay. What you can do with that data, there's a lot of gray area there, right? Obviously, I don't think you can sell that data. I doubt that's legal, but for personal use, it's probably okay. In our case, it's just for practice, right? So, example, you want to compare car prices. There was a time I was debating between 2 different car models, and I wanted to know the average price per zip code, per miles, per year and such. So I scraped 2 different websites and calculated an average, and I should dig that script because I did it a few years ago, but it's a good idea. You go to like carfax.com or autotraders.com or cars.com and download some of the information, right? But that way you practice to write Python with Selenium. You can research most demanding programming languages. This actually could be interesting for people that are in the job search. You can go to job sites like dice.com or indeed.com and download the job descriptions, right? You can do a search for, let's say, QA automation, download the job description and count words and see which word comes up more frequently. Let's say you download 500 job postings. How many of the job postings have Python in them and how many of them have Java in them, right? That's a really cool project. And you're practicing, you're actually coming up with good analysis, something useful. Okay, list of stocks from different sites. You might not be a trader, you might not know anything about stock trading, but let's say you get a job and your boss wants a list of stocks. If you go like FinBiz, this is a very popular stock scanning tool. Okay, it will scan it and it will give you a list. Check it out, it's free. It's a lot of pop-ups. It just gives you a list of stocks, and you want to scrape it into a file so your boss can take that and put it into a different platform. It's a real use case. there are a lot of people, for example, Thinkorswim is a platform that's really popular, but people like to scan on this site and take the result and put it into Thinkorswim, which is a different app. But a lot of people do it manually, right? One by one, take a ticker and copy paste. But if you have skills like this, if you have Selenium skills, you can just save it into a file and upload it to the other site. This is a cool project. This will be challenging. It's free, but there's a lot of pop-ups, right? So when you're dealing with Selenium, pop-ups are a nightmare. All right. So how to deal with that? It's going to make you think. It's going to make you come up with good solutions. So this is a good practice. I personally like the scraping practice more than the testing practice. They're all really good, but the scraping practice a lot of times will throw a lot of challenges you don't expect. So it's going to make you think outside the box, and it's going to make you write a whole lot of Python logic, which you really want, right? All right, so there's more ideas. For example, find books you can buy from one site and sell to another site. There are a bunch of websites that buy books, and there are a bunch of websites that sell books, right? So you can scrape one site, see how much they sell it, like eBay, for example. Stuff on eBay is typically cheaper. You can scrape eBay and go to another site and get a quote and see if it's cheaper, right? You don't necessarily have to actually do the buying and selling, but it's a really cool practice. House prices. You can go to house listing sites, real estate sites like realtor.com or redfin.com or zillow.com, and download a list of houses and do an average of prices per zip code, per city, things like that. All right, and research salaries. There's a couple of websites that gives you salary information, right? There's salary.com, payscale.com. I believe LinkedIn have the same feature. And scrape those sites. Go there, do a search for some career that you like, for QA automation, for example, and download what they say. And so you can play around. Once you write the script, you can just set parameters, right? How much does a person with 10-year experience get paid versus how much does a person with 2 years experience get paid and 3 years experience? So you can do that analysis. So those are examples. Some of those are things that came up in my life, I actually used in my life. So think about something similar that you would like on your life, right? Something that's relevant to you right now, and practice with that. There's an advantage with that is you're going to be interested. You're going to be more interested because you're not just practicing the code, you're actually getting something out of it, okay? So these are what I'm thinking you can practice with. Those are, I believe, good practice ideas. And you will find this in the course material. So you can there's a link to download the course material in the bottom of the video or at the beginning of the first video of the course, depending on how you're watching this, okay? So, but this sheet is available for you, and enjoy, and make sure you send me questions and any kind of comments you have. I would love to hear from you guys. Thank you very much.